It's Labor Day weekend and we're in the mountains in Pennsylvania. We're celebrating with our friends Mabel and Carlotta and Martinis and Manhattans.
Let's go.
Hello, welcome to today's episode of Let's Celebrate TV. I'm your host, Peter Lee. It's Labor Day weekend, and we're here again in our seasonal campsite in the upstate part of Pennsylvania in the mountains. And I have some very special guest stars with me. I have the world-famous Mabel Syrup and Carlotta Attendant. Now, the girls here are going to be doing a show later on this evening, so we thought that we would have a little cocktail hour first, because what better way to start a celebration than with a cocktail?
It's true.
Today, we're going
Sometimes
to
you
make...
need it.
Yeah,
need a
right?
cocktail.
So we're going to make two classic cocktails today.
Which two?
The Martini, proper gin martini, and the Manhattan.
Oh, my favorite.
So, easy drinks. Thing about cocktails, you want to think in ratios. If you do a ratio, you can mix any type of cocktail, and you can mix it whether it's ounces or cups or gallons. And you know the way we go through cocktails at our parties.
We love
Yes.
Actually, more than 1 gallon.
More than 1 gallon.
So let's start with a martini.
Now, are we making what kind of a martini? A gin martini?
We are going to make a proper gin
Gin
martini because the martini started out as gin. Actually, before we do that, let's talk about prepping the glasses. I really like my cocktails in a cold glass, and I normally keep my glasses in the freezer. Not everyone does that. You might not have room. So here's an easy way to chill your glasses. Just a little bit of ice and some water for a few minutes before you're ready. That will chill them down, and you don't have to clutter up your freezer. Okay. Now, for a martini, it started out as a 2-to-1 ratio. 2 gins to 1 vermouth, and this is dry vermouth. Now for gins, when the martini was invented in the 20s, gin was really rough because it was illegal, so people were making bathtub gin and things like that. So they started making really wet martinis. So it was 2 gins to 1 vermouth because the vermouth took the edge off and softened it out and made it more palatable.
Mm-hmm.
But in today's world, you don't do that because the gin is like artisan gin. You know, there's so many different types now with different flavorings. There's cucumbers and pine and juniper berries and everything. It's crazy. This is just my regular day-to-day gin.
What's your favorite brand?
We like the Seagrams.
You like Seagrams?
For martinis. There are a couple others. We like Philadelphia Blue Coat for gin and tonic.
Okay.
It all varies. It's all, you can use whatever gin you want.
What's the difference between a dirty martini and a filthy martini?
Well, I'll get to that. That's with the olive juice. The more olive juice you put in it, the dirtier it gets. So when people want a filthy martini, they want it mostly olive juice.
Okay.
I figured this bitch asked about a filthy.
Ooh,
It is
yes.
not. Mm-hmm.
So let's get mixing. Now, you can, first we want some ice in our shaker. You've all heard James Bond ordering a vodka martini, shaken, not stirred. Ooh, a bug. All the fun of outdoors. I like to shake my martinis, and the difference is
I like to shake my martinis too.
when you shake them, it gets colder. It dilutes it just a little bit, but it gets it nice and cold. Some people are purists. They stir everything, which is fine, and they say shaking bruises the gin, which that's a fake.
I don't understand.
No.
That. Hey, if it was good enough for Auntie May, we can.
Right?
That's good too.
Mm-hmm.
So ratios. started out as 2 to 1.
2 to 1.
I'm going to make them a little drier. I'm going to do 7 to 1. Now, a lot of people use a little jigger like this. There's a small side. That's 1 ounce. That could make 1 drink. Or a bigger size that would make 2 ounces.
Or 1 drink for me.
Yeah.
Right. I don't have time for this. I'm going to use a measuring cup.
Ooh, we like that.
Much easier.
We love bigger
So we're going to
cups.
measure out 7 ounces of gin.
Keep going. Don't stop.
24 hours later.
6 and 7.
Oh, she's tough.
She's just so good at this.
1 ounce of vermouth. Now, vermouth is funny. This is a fortified wine, and it comes in dry and sweet varieties. A lot of people believe that vermouth will last on your shelf forever. That's not true. It goes bad. Once you open it, like any other bottle of wine, the clock starts ticking. So I keep my vermouth, both the dry and the sweet, in the refrigerator after I've opened it. And it lasts maybe 2 weeks. It never lasts that long for
I was
us.
going to say,
but
I don't think that, yeah.
you'll know if your vermouth has gone bad
How so?
from the smell.
Oh,
Oh.
she's the same way.
Oh. Somebody doesn't
Okay.
take a shower as much as I do.
In the shaker. Now the fun part. I'm using 2 shakers because I've been doing this for a long time. You can buy cocktail shakers that have a little lid on it that are probably easier if you're just starting out. Here we go.
I'm almost afraid the lid's going to come off. But I'm saying,
Here we go. Got some glasses. Olives are the classic garnish for a martini. Sometimes people use twisted lemon. Sometimes people use a pickled onion, and that's called a Gibson. But I like the olives. Now, some bartenders are very superstitious, and they'll say an odd number of olives, 1 or 3. So we'll keep that tradition going because I don't want to risk any bad mojo. 1 olive. Plus, the more olives in the glass, it takes up too much room, and you don't get as
more
much
room for the cocktail.
Yeah, exactly.
yes. More room for more liquid.
So strain that off. Now these glasses are kind of small, you're probably thinking, and there's a reason for that. You want this drink to be cold. You don't want it to get bitter when you drink it. So
Right.
let's have taste.
Okay. Cheers.
Cheers, darling.
Okay, we've cleared off the decks after the martinis. Now we're going to make Manhattans, which is my personal favorite drink.
So am I. Yep, bye-bye. Wait.
Manhattan is a whiskey-based drink. You can use whatever type of whiskey. Traditionally, it's rye, but you can use a blended whiskey or bourbon, Tennessee whiskey, a Scotch even, which is called a Rob Roy. I'm using a Canadian blended whiskey today. It also has sweet vermouth. A couple other ingredients. Bitters, which is just like a bitter orange accent.
Okay.
So the other ingredients are maraschino cherries and a little bit of the cherry juice
We
that
haven't
goes
seen a
right in
cherry here in
cocktails.
years, have we?
Oh, no. Especially
Same
behind
thing,
it.
ratios. Put some ice in your shaker. Now, for Manhattans, I follow a 2-to-1 ratio. In this case, because, well, we love our Manhattans, I'm going to use 6 ounces of whiskey to 3 ounces of vermouth, 2-to-1. And that will make 2 good-sized drinks. But again, you don't want giant drinks because they'll get warm, and they're not so good when they're warm. All right. Vermouth.
I hear Carlotta panting over here over that drink already.
I am.
Just a dash of
Why are
bitters.
you using bitters? This is the bitter bitch.
No.
The bitters, it adds an extra little tiny level of flavor, softens the sweetness. This is not as sweet as like a Cosmo or an Appletini or something, but it is a sweeter drink, and this just kind of rounds it out. You don't want to use so much that it's making it actually bitter. It's just that extra little edge. Now, traditionally, Manhattans are stirred. And I'm going to shake it today. For the
We're
same
going to shake
reason.
it tonight.
I'm
For the same reason. It's going to make it colder, but what will happen when you shake a Manhattan, it gets a little frothy and a little cloudy, but that goes away. By the time you're ready to pour the drinks and serve it, that all goes away.
Our legs are going to shake like a long time ago.
Okay. Now see, it's all frothy.
I have much things to say about it. Pete.
All right. For chill glasses, a tiny bit of cherry juice. You don't want to make it too sweet. Again, this just adds that extra little flavor. 1 cherry each. We will strain this in.
It's beautiful.
I think my taste buds are
I
exploding
hear
right
them.
here.
I hear them. Right
Oh
here.
my god.
Oh.
So let's taste. Ladies.
Mm-hmm. Cheers.
Cheers.
And cheers. Mmm. Ah, it's delicious.
Well, that's 2 classic cocktails, the Martini and the Manhattan, shared with 2 classic ladies, Mabel and Carlotta. So like always, guys, we'll put these recipes up in the video description on YouTube, and we'll put any links to any of the products that we use when we talk about. Now, ask us any questions, let us know what you think about our episode and our show in the comments section. Now tell me, what cocktails would you make? So, remember, hit the like button so that people know you like our show. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. I can't say it enough. Because we don't want you to miss a single episode of Let's Celebrate TV. And if you would like to, and I certainly want you to, go back and watch all of our episodes over and over again whenever you want by going to youtube.com/Let's Celebrate TV. I'm your host, Peter Lee. It's all the time we have today.
Let's celebrate.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Mhm.